about you guys?
She has a different voice and a different understanding.
We're on OffSite Dirt. Our series brings together a community of professionals that are in construction, high performance, building science, and we have an amazing guest with our host, Mark Willie.
Audrey, I really love the dirt, and it's nice to sit with a friend today in front of a microphone. He's a great example of fatherhood. He's a great example of a leader in our industry. He's a fine person that I'm pleased to call a friend, and someone that is an example for other people to get into the trades, and for those that are in the trades. It's a great example of what others can be doing in their community. From Catalyst Construction, ladies and gentlemen, Travis Brungard. How are you, brother?
Well, I'm pretty good after such an uplifting introduction as that. I sound like a really great guy. I hope to meet me someday. And maybe I'll live up to that. I'm trying really hard to be a good dad, so I appreciate you putting that in there. And then we do, at Catalyst, we do try really hard to take care of our clients, because that enables us to obviously feel good about what we do, but also to give back to the industry that's given us so much. And that's why we started the nonprofit BS and Beer, KC, which has given us the opportunity to really do even more to help with educating skilled trades, both for people who are just getting into the trades, as well as our industry partners that we work with every day, just like you and Audrey.
There you go. And your partner is Joe Cook. You've known Joe Cook for a minute. I met Joe at the same time as I met you. There's these roads that pass through Kansas and Missouri. Travis and I met at the side of the highway, and we got out of our trucks and we shook hands. We hugged. We went right to recording a video. We said goodbye. We hugged, and we went back to work. Can you tell everyone about your relationship with Joe and how that goes back, and kind of what a day-to-day looks like for the two of you?
Yeah, for sure. So my business partner, Joe Cook, is a master plumber and a general contractor, but I have known him probably since second or third grade. He was up on stage. He was an altar boy at the church that I grew up going to, Queen of the Holy Rosary Catholic Church. Joe's dad played guitar, and so he was an altar boy, and I was just a lowly attendee, not even the elites to be serving. So I have known of Joe since way back then. We went to high school. Actually, we went to middle school and high school together. So I have known of Joe for a very long time, but we really didn't become friends until after high school. We kind of started running in the same group at that time. In high school, Joe was like a rock star. Like, he played in a band and did journalism for the school paper. And I was in like ceramics class and photography, and I shot for the yearbook. So, those paths would cross in high school. But after high school, we both started riding mountain bikes, and Joe is actually quite good at that. And I provide really good comic relief when racing on mountain bikes because of my epic wrecks. So again, we didn't quite run in the same circle, but we spent a lot more time together camping and backpacking with all of our buddies and playing disc golf and doing fun stuff like that. And it so happened that when I took a job as a project manager at a production builder, we needed another very skilled project manager. And I was telling Joe, I was like, man, it'd be great if we could get you to come on. Because at the time, Joe was remodeling, and that had been my background too. After high school, we both ended up working in remodeling, even though he was doing more upscale stuff and I was doing more middle of the road. He had a paint company that was very successful, and so this remodeling firm had hired him. I asked him if he would be interested in maybe leaving that behind to help run a couple of subdivisions that we were building out. And he came on to the company that I was working with then, and of course did great. And then we both worked for that company for a few years. And then 2008 came around, and we were like, gosh, we should really consider starting something on the side. We might want to, have a little Christmas money or whatever. Let's form an LLC, and, we can flip a basement here and there or do a couple decks. Started a company on the side with a third partner, a friend of ours, and ran Catalyst Construction for that first project couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden we all got laid off, and we've been full-time with Catalyst ever since. Never missed a day of work. And so yeah, Joe's a great guy. and also a good father. His 3 kids are a real blessing too. So I'm real proud of Joe and the company that we've built together. It's a real pleasure to work with someone skilled and devoted on all these projects.
That is perfect. I feel like I'm standing next to Joe right now. He would be blushing for a minute, and he would be whispering certain things in my ear while Travis is talking, and that's all good. You guys embody a word that isn't used in modern day vocabulary the way that it should be, and that's camaraderie. Not only do you have that between the likes of both of you and your team, who I've gotten a chance to meet because they always have a way of being in Kansas City at the annual Midwest Building Science Symposium, as we know, the epicenter of where it all began. And it's funny in that camaraderie is that example allows other people to be a part of that space. And so there's now been 3 Midwest Building Science Symposiums that have happened in Kansas City and that happen in lieu of national pandemics and whatnot. That couldn't hold you back. That as well as probably about 3 years now running. You've been a part of the BS and Beer Brew Crew, Michael Maines and Emily and Ben, and there's a few other folks that have jumped in and out of that group as well as your guests. So fast forwarding, those 3 years are now under the belt. In that same time period, there's been wall assembly competition. So that's happened a few years now. And can you tell us a little bit about wall assembly? I don't want to put it in my words because I think it's just brilliant. So tell us how it started. Tell us where it is. Tell us where it's going.
So, like so many things, we just had a little bit of a change of what we could do and how we could work together as the pandemic became a reality. We were watching the fun things that we get to do with our friends and brothers and sisters kind of dissipate and fall away and become unavailable. And of course, I'm a huge basketball fan, as you know, Mark. I know you grew up in Chicago, and you'll give me all the Bulls stats, but I was a Pistons fan, so you and I should be button heads. But anyway, the college tournament, am I allowed to say it? I feel like there's sorts of copyright rights, and you can't really talk about it. But the NCAA tournament every year is a big deal, and March Madness is a thing that people get really excited about. And we thought, well, since we're not going to have that to be able to gather together and enjoy, watching a game with our friends, what if we took that Sweet 16 concept and applied it to something else that we care a lot about, and that's building better assemblies? And so we crafted this first annual Wall Assembly Sweet 16, which was essentially, at that stage, it was an Instagram popularity contest. We took on entries from professionals in the industry, the Steve Basics, Ben Bogies, Mike Maines, anyone who wanted to submit one up to the cap of 16. And then we just did Instagram voting and said, how about this one versus this one? Mike's versus Ben's was the final. Matt Bloomquist, who I know you guys are very familiar with, obviously one of the great building trades teachers in the nation now, his program submitted an assembly. And we just did live voting on Instagram for like a world-class wrestling belt, which was awesome, which Matt Bloomquist walked away with because of the generosity of Steve Basic and Mike Maines. They just decided, you know what, we're in the final, but who would actually benefit from this? Let's give the love to Bloomy and his crew. So that was the first annual. Now, the second year of the competition was a little bit different. We got involved with Connor Malloy, who you probably have had on and certainly know well. Connor is another great instructor, a gift to the industry, teaching at George Brown College in Toronto. And Connor has a gift for digital media in a way that I do not. And he said, look, I can do a lot more good with this. If you are willing, we'd really like to do this as part of our curriculum. Would you do it as a student competition? And I said, gosh, I don't know. I mean, it was a lot of work last year, and I feel like people could benefit from it maybe. And he said, oh no, you're not even scratching the surface. This is a tip of the iceberg moment. If we have students looking at this as a grade, and we have people all across North America and even the world looking at how they can improve assemblies, we're going to get some new creative ideas that we haven't even thought of yet. We're going to move the industry forward. And oh, by the way, we could probably do a little better than just a prize belt. What if we gave out scholarships to these kids? And because Connor is an incredibly hard worker and quite good at his job, he created a website for wall assembly. It's just wallassembly.com, super easy, where you can go on and see the past entries. You can see the student entries from both of those past 2 years, because we've done this now 2 years in a row. And I really want to just take a quick second to recognize the sponsors, because a lot of people got involved to try and further the cause, which was, again, at its inception, entertainment, and then very rapidly turned to, well, what can we do to make the world a better place? And that's where we had great companies from Huber to Sega. I mean, all up and down the line. There were so many people who were just like, wait a minute, there are kids that are trying to get into the trades and learn how to make a better wall assembly, and that's going to push our industry forward. How can we help? What can we do? What do they need? Rockwell, Sashco, all these companies are sending out products, sending out information, scholarship for building trades programs. So that is really what that competition has become. And that competition is about to ramp up again. So watch wallassembly.com so that you can see when those are going to open up, because it's open to all students. It's not just a high school. It's not just a college. If you are engaged in learning about building trades and are a student, you can enter and you can win, and you can really learn a lot even if you don't. So check it out.
Amazing, first of all. And isn't it wonderful to see doing something good for humanity and the world, and all of the other people and all the other companies that see the value in that? That's a pretty inspiring creation that you did, Travis. Thank you for creating that.
Well, don't give me all the credit. It started with Joe and I in BS and Beer KC, but it definitely took a whole new life with Connor Malloy's efforts. And then people like Mark and you, Audrey, pushing it forward, getting the word out, supporting that. And then, as I said, all the generous sponsors who have made it really lucrative for these students to get on board. Thanks for the credit, but it goes a lot further than us.
Well, I met Connor Malloy, who's like, what, 6'5"?
He's a big guy.
He's the tallest
He's your
guy.
tallest friend.
I met him in Chicago, but just a lovely person, just a lovely man. And again, it seems like we're all understanding this and getting in together, that the only way that we can keep building better and building better building is by building science and having these discussions. But I want to kind of circle back to your Midwest Building Science Symposium. For me as a novice, what does that mean? What are you guys doing there? What is the premise of the symposium?
Well, it's a pretty simple concept, really. It was inspired by the Fine Home Building Summit in 2019, where basically Fine Home Building said, hey, we'd like to get people together and share all this information. For $800, you can come and stay in this hotel and have 3 days of content from speakers like Jake Bruton and Ben Bogie and Steve Basic and Christine Williamson and Mike Maines and all up and down the line. And I saw the ad for that, and I called Joe that night. It's like, I know it's 10:30. I don't care. This is important. I just saw this ad. This is going to sell out. We got to register now. And he was like, okay, calm down, Travis. It's going to be okay. We're going to get to go. And we did. We went to the summit, and it was wonderful. It's exactly what you would expect when the building science community comes together. There's so much generous sharing of knowledge, so much support for one another, and really trying to show each other the way. And that level of generosity was just a beautiful thing to be a part of. And when we came back, before we left, I had said to our local BS and Beer group, I was like, hey, we're going. We should all go. Let's get a van. Let's make it a road trip. Let's make this an amazing experience for all of us. And a lot of people just couldn't get away. So when Joe and I were coming back, I was like, we got to bring this to Kansas City. This can't just be, building science isn't just for the Northeasterners. Like, building science is for everyone. We can all do better. We just have to help each other out. So what if we did something like this in Kansas City? And we got a little brain trust together, some of our regular attendees for our BS and Beer KC, our local building science get together group. And Gabe Greider and Joe Nichols were there with Joe and I. And we sat down and we're like, what could we do to make we can't do that. We're not fine home building. We don't have 3 days in a convention center and an event planner. But what can we do to get the word out here? And what we settled on was 2 days in a brewery because it's BS and beer. So we partnered with Boulevard Brewery here, a local brewery that had a great event space. And we just said, look, for 2 days, can we actually, no, the first year it was just 1 day. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. 1 day. And for 1 day of content, what would do the most good? And if you've ever seen Steve Basic speak, of course, he's an incredibly engaging speaker. He's brilliant, but he does such a great job with the control layers. And we're like, we got to have Steve come and explain the control layers. Do you think we could get him? I don't know. But we're kind of buddied up with Jake Bruton. He's in Columbia, which is not but a couple hours away from us. And Jake is a good friend of mine. And I just called Jake and I was like, look, we got this harebrained idea. We love seeing you guys at the summit. What would you think about us trying to do something like that in Kansas City? What would it take to get you and Steve to come and talk? You know, maybe Steve can do control layers and you can take us a little deeper dive into each of like air sealing and water management, real basics. He was like, I love it. I'll talk to Steve and we'll figure it out. And whatever you guys can afford, that's what it'll cost. Don't worry about it. Plan the event. And again, that's the generosity of the building science community. They were in before we had a date, before we had a budget. They were in. So then we started reaching out to sponsors, and fortunately at that time, we were able to get in touch with Huber. At the time, Tracy Collins was running their marketing, and she said, "I love it. We do Building Science Crossroads with Steve and Peter all the time, and it's a great event. It sounds like you're trying to kind of do the same thing. Would you just want us to come and do Crossroads?" And I said, I feel like our thing's a little different. I feel like BS and Beer is unique, and it invites a collegial environment where it's not just being presented to, but you're invited to ask questions. You're invited to be part of the community. Even if you're a novice and you walk in the door and you don't know control layers from, saran wrap and socks, you can leave the event with a real kinship with the community, with a support group. If you run into problems, you now have friends that you can call and say, I'm trying to do this, but I thought we did the saran wrap here. And we go, no, we want a vapor open house wrap. You don't want any saran wrap there. So we can help each other out that way. And she said, that's great. Let's do it. We'll figure it out. And then we got more sponsors, and we were able to get a fully funded event just by the support of our sponsors. So that first year, that 1 day event that included the food and the beer and the full day of education from Jake and Steve was free. Just sign up and show up. And we packed the house. And the next year we did it again, and we expanded the event to be 2 days, and we brought in more speakers and more sponsors. And then the third year, we looked at it as, gosh, this is, again, it can't, just like I said, building science isn't just for the Northeast. Building science isn't just for Kansas City. Like if you can't get to Kansas City in September, that's okay. You still need to be part of this. This is still a win for everyone that gets to hear it. You got to share the good news, right? So in our zealotry, we decided to go ahead and expand the event. Or as Mark said it, our event transcended to include Chattanooga and Texas. And in February of 23, the Mid-Atlantic in Silver Spring, Maryland. So that's an expansion or transcendence of the original Midwest Building Science Symposium. And what we're going to do is have that rotation because we want to support the local BS and Beer groups. Nathan Shirai in Chattanooga, Tennessee has an incredibly active group. So it made perfect sense to go to Nathan and say, hey, where would be a good place? What should we do? We had a fantastic event there. Michael Crane did the same thing in Austin. And of course, Nick Berger and Dan Hines run that BS and Beer DC. And it's an incredibly bright and wonderful group that includes guys like Doug Horgan and Dan Edelman. I mean, just fantastic people. So we've got to go to these other markets and support those local groups, but also make sure that those bigger events really do spread the good news of this is how to build better. This is a lot of options. Like you understand the rules to work within, but it's not product specific. You don't have to build everything with Zip. You don't have to build everything with Rockwool. What you have to do is understand how things work so that you can apply the right solution, which might be Zip, it might be Rockwool. But if you understand it, you can now have freedom in that market to solve problems all over in renovation and new home. You just got to understand the rules of building science, and now it gives you the freedom to operate. So we're trying to do that and expand to serve at least 4 to 5 markets a year. I think we'll probably always keep Kansas City in Kansas City because it's home. But we might push it to Denver in 23 just to change it up. There's a lot of really good groups. Robbie Swartz runs the group out there, and there's just a lot of people that we want to support them the way they supported us, because that's where this all comes from.
So to paint the picture in another layer, because you painted it so well, the second year amidst the pandemic, I believe, when did it start? 9 or 9:30 in the morning?
Yeah, about 9 is when we got in the door.
So picture this, folks. You got people from Colorado, from Virginia, from Minneapolis, from Texas. Plane travel was not normal. A lot of people were jumping in trucks with other folks. And 9:30 in the morning is a little late for contractors, right? So what happened was I see everyone at 7:45 in the morning on their fourth cup of coffee, lined outside of the brewery. Some of the exhibitors still have some stuff to bring in. Now you have all the flannel wearing, boot wearing, smiling son of a guns helping bring the boxes over, helping bring this in. And we still had to be checked, right, for our temperature and all that to enter the facility, because safety was first, right? We're contractors, we're safe. And everyone was coffeeed up. Everyone was ready to go in. And I remember just looking at you, Travis, and that crowd of people, and you're like, this is good. I got a lot to do. And there's people flying drones. And then fast forward, Ben speaks. I think Ben kicked it off that year, talking about the first passive house being a boat, right? Blowing everyone's mind with his historic references of triple pane windows in boats in the 1800s. And then we break for lunch, and we're all filling our faces with coleslaw and brisket and baked beans. But what happened is you had people, guys and gals of many different professional experience levels, but breaking bread and talking about how to be better in their industry. And sure, you got the inquisitive folks saying, I don't understand a thing Ben said. And someone else saying, actually, this is what he said. Or, God, I can't wait till Jake Bruton does this because I watch him all the time and he does this. Or someone steps out of line and Stephen basically puts them back in their place, and we straighten up, right? Fast forward to year 3, you had Mariana, Allison Bales included with Stephen and Jake. Peter Yost couldn't make it that year. You had Glenn Matheson come in and just knock it out of the park. The guy had a touchdown and a grand slam and a 360 dunk from the free throw line all at once. So that's actually what happened. What it is it's the acceptance that being the best in your industry is surrounding yourself with people that help you be the best. And that's what Symposium did for me. I got to meet exhibitors I hadn't seen in 2 years. I got to meet people from those other states. I'm still connected to all of them on the IG, on the LinkedIn. So if it's not in your town, this is when you use your phone and you say, Travis, Joe, how do we get this in our town? How do we make our town be what Kansas City did? And for that, I just applaud all that work that goes on behind the scenes, that sacrifices that you guys miss from your family, right? It's brilliant, Travis.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to get to share that and to be able to bring it to different markets so that it is more accessible. I feel like that's an important role that was added. I would be remiss in not mentioning Cheryl Lewis, who has helped us expand that. We don't have the ability to be an event planner in 5 different states while we're building houses in one. So we've engaged Cheryl Lewis and Rudley, her husband, the Cheryl Lewis Associates, I think is the name of her company. And she's run stuff for NAHB for years at IBS. and done stuff for the New York firefighters. So she's a masterful event planner. So she has helped to facilitate that growth. But we've also leaned on our sponsors who obviously run events in these different markets as well. And so if you are looking to get a symposium in your market, I will tell you that I'm really only very active on Instagram. I don't pay close attention on LinkedIn. There's a limit to the bandwidth that I've got, and it peters out pretty rapidly after Instagram. So it helps me if I see you out there starting your own BS and beer group. That's a great way to do it. Or if you're attending another group, or if you're just making noise about, gosh, we need a group. Like there's a lot of noise about Southern California. Like, do you need building science in Southern California? I thought you just open air because it's San Diego. It's beautiful all the time, right? I don't know, but there's a lot of noise out there. So if we continue to hear noise in that place, we're going to be looking to serve that market. And that's why in 23, I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, I thought it was the second annual Chattanooga, the second annual Austin, Texas, the second annual or the fourth annual Kansas City. Not necessarily. We want to move the event around so that we can bring as many people as possible into the fold, because it is self-sustaining once you create a community like this. And so, as you mentioned, the Glenn Matthewsons, the Peter Yost, the Jake Bruton, Steve Basic, Ben Bogey, Mariana Pickering of EMU Systems in Colorado. There's a good reason to go to Denver right there. We've got the EMU crew. There's a good reason to go to the Northeast, where we've got Emily Mottram, who's been preaching the Pretty Good House gospel for so long and was at our event this last year. So there are a lot of good reasons to go and try and take the show on the road. But it really is about supporting those local communities and in some cases trying to create them.
Yeah, I agree. And for all of those that may not know, the BS is building science, and this is a grassroots building science discussion, and it's dedicated to educating and supporting the industry professionals and anyone that's interested in building better. So I just want to establish that I know you guys, this is like your language, but for many people, they don't really know what the BS is, and it's building science, of course.
That's an important distinction.
Absolutely. So the different places to find Travis and Joe are Catalyst Construction on Instagram. You could also reach out to Travis and Connor Malloy, or go right to wallassembly.com. So a few times in this discussion, Travis said 2023, 2023. For the folks that aren't able to be a part of 2023, you can start planning for 2024. You can pass this on to your schools, be it building trades, be it a regular high school, be it a regular college. I guarantee you, just like when you were a kid, someone wanted to be a race car driver and your neighbor gal wanted to be an astronaut, whatever it is, someone wants to also transform the construction industry. It is your place to provide them with that tool. It's no longer a hammer. It is education. So pass along wallassembly.com and then be that beacon. Start the building science and beer in your community. Reach out to Travis and see if a symposium is right for your network, and know that these folks are here for you. Travis, we love having you on the dirt. I can't wait to see what you come up with next. I saw some calendar photographs at IBS, so I don't know if that's another venture you're under. But Audrey, the dirt is one of my favorite topics. And Travis, next time you're in Georgia or Colorado, make sure you and Audrey get a chance to have a sloppy Joe together and have some laughs.
I appreciate it, Mark. Yeah, I got to have you over to a symposium for a beer, Audrey. That's our thing. We got to have you over for a beer. And if you guys don't mind, can I just mention KCBS and Beer? Again, on Instagram, that's at BS and Beer KC. We're at Catalyst Built is my day job, building houses. So you can find us there. But if you're trying to create a building science and beer group, I'm only here because Mike Maines created this a long time ago in Portland, Maine. I didn't start this. This isn't me. This is us. And you can find Mike Maines on Instagram, but more easily, you could go to the BS and Beer Show on Instagram or thebsandbeershow.com, where there's all sorts of information about how to start your own group. So credit to Mike for starting us all off. It was his clever, oh, what if we call it BS and beer? That's what stuck. And that's where I got excited about growing it.
Yeah, I should have led off with that. The reason I know Travis is from Michael Main's. He's if he says to check someone out, you take him for his word, right? We're all about the right people aligning, and if you don't know, Michael Main's, along with a couple other folks, including Emily, have put together the Pretty Good House, the Pretty Good House workbook for kids, and the Pretty Good House book for folks that want words and pictures. Thank you, Travis. I'll see you all on IG. And Audrey, you want to take us out?
Yeah, thank you, Travis. I love your whole explanation, and it's all about getting involved and being involved in a community and knowing that there's these outlets now to kind of grow your skill set and to learn a new one. And I just love, and I'm going to tell everybody this hashtag, keep craft alive. Make sure you use that. Make sure we connect. Instagram's obviously the vehicle here. Thank you again, Travis. Thank you, Mark. And that's another series for OffSite Dirt. I'm Audrey Grabesic, and so pleased that we can share this information, and we look forward to expanding the community.